Hello, my name is Estrella Vargas, and I am a proud employee here at CAN TV. Today, you're tuning in to a special show on immigration rights. I am a proud daughter of two immigrant parents who migrated to the United States for a better life. So giving back to the immigrant community is something very important to me. And so today, I have the honor of interviewing Arcadio Delgado and John Antia. Both are leaders in the Chicagoland area, helping immigrant communities in their own ways. So to start, I want to introduce John Antia. Can you talk about who you are and what kind of work do you do for the community?
Sure, my name is John Antia, born and raised in Chicago, Chicago's Albany Park neighborhood. Son of two Colombian immigrant parents who actually met in Chicago. And now I'm an attorney, an associate attorney at the Sarikas Law Group. I manage their immigration department, and the work that I do on a day-to-day is family-based petitions, removal defense. So if someone's caught in the immigration court system, I try and defend them there, asylum applications, and that's my day-to-day.
Attorneys are an essential part of the immigration process for people, but there are other resources that they can reach out to for support as well. So what is the work that you do and what you do for the community in general?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Arcadio Delgado, and I am immigrant from Mexico. I've been living in Chicago for 4 years. I've been working for not-for-profit organization for over 25 years in different areas. I would like to mention what Cicero Area Project is doing with the community. I believe one of the best areas that we need to do with our community is to empower them. How can we empower the community? By providing services, education, and advocacy. As an immigrant organization, we help community residents to apply for citizenship classes. We help community residents to be involved in their own community to prevent different situations that affect their lives. This is what we do in Cicero Area Project.
Okay. And what kind of resources, specifically,
Sure.
do you provide?
Well, we have three key elements. One, for younger adults, we provide leadership programs to prevent violence prevention. Second, we have a program for adult citizens. We have a seniors cafe when we inform the community about the services that are available to them. For instance, how to apply for Medicaid, food stamps, Social Security, among others. And the other one, it is the legal nights that we offer at Cicero Area Project. In the legal nights, we cover areas of immigration, obviously, because we live in an immigrant area. We provide legal services like a citizenship, Medicaid, among others.
Okay. So now we're living in a Trump era where his political agenda focuses a lot on immigration, and fear is increasing rapidly among the immigrant community because of the negative rhetoric we're seeing on television. So, John, can you help viewers understand what a sanctuary city is first before we dive into
Sure.
what they can do here in the Chicagoland area?
Sure. I think fear as a theme is always something that's in the immigrant community. It's not limited to Trump. I think it's something that is a carry over from one administration to the next. However, Trump is using the immigrant community today as a hyper focal point to get his base rallied and prove something. Nevertheless, so how an immigrant or someone in a mixed status household can better prepare is the question, right?
Is a sanctuary city something that can help them in their immigration process?
So a sanctuary city, now a sanctuary state, really what it comes down to is if someone is detained and for committing some criminal act, driving without a license, DUI, or something else. ICE, the Immigration Customs Enforcement, can ask that detention center to hold them for 48 hours in addition to whatever limit they were already authorized under in that detention center. So what the sanctuary state bill or law did is it told those detention centers that you do not have to honor those ICE detainers. But that's really the scale of it. I mean, there's this sort of loftier idea that by living in a sanctuary state, city, that somehow you're much more safer against collateral detentions by ICE. I mean, ICE is going to continue doing what they do, which is to go to people's homes, people's work sites. They've gone to court, right? So the fact that we live in a sanctuary state does not eliminate the ability for them to go to those places to find who they're trying to arrest. It's more the detention facilities being asked or being told that you do not have to honor those ICE detainers. But let's say they do. There's nothing in that law that provides some kind of accountability. There's nothing in the law that addresses if someone does honor that ICE detainer. Do you sue? Do you do something about it afterwards? Because that parent, that son, that daughter is detained. So, I mean, that's the idea, though, is to eliminate that connection, direct connection from a detention facility to ICE's custody.
Okay, thank you for that. So, as we talk about fear, Arcadio, you hold a lot of immigration workshops, know your rights, and also you help people with their immigration, citizenship application.
Correct.
So, are people attending your workshops?
Yeah, because people needs to be informed. As Jan mentioned, we have to understand what is the to what extent the sanctuary city can do for immigrants. And in many cases, organizations send different information, because we have to understand what is the federal law versus the community law. It has to be clear. People might understand, because if it is sanctuary city, immigration or federal law do not apply to community or city laws, which is in fact, that is not true. What we need to do is to inform the community what the rights they have. For instance, the 14th Amendment, the 5th Amendment, against to self-incrimination. We have to emphasize in those amendments that every human person has in this society. Obviously, the workshops that we provide, we not only the community-based organizations, we have allies too. We have immigration attorneys who help us to deliver the right information. We have cities like the city of Chicago, which is sanctuary city, like the city of Cicero, who helps the community to address the fears they have against immigration.
Okay. If I may.
Correct. Yeah.
When you mentioned the 5th and 14th Amendment, Arcadio is speaking to the right to due process that people have in this country and the right to remain silent, just to be clear.
Yeah. And we have to explain those amendments. Yes. Because in many cases, like right now I just mentioned, well, I had the 5th Amendment. What that the 5th Amendment has? Well, the remain to remain silent and against the self-incrimination. This is a human rights law that the U.S. Constitution provides to all human beings in the United States, regardless of their status.
Okay, thank you for that. So do you find that people are skeptical of the immigration system? Do you come in and see people that are kind of negligent of like maybe becoming citizens because they don't trust the system, or is it mostly because are they interested in doing it?
Well, it's a lot of people are interested to become as citizens.
Okay.
But again, we need to inform to see if the person qualifies. It is a process. It is a process. And in many cases, people is not well informed that when they apply for citizenship versus they might be affected versus get the benefit. For instance, we were talking a few minutes ago, and in our experience, when we try to help people to become a citizen, it's one question that we ask them: have you ever been arrested? And the answer, well, my attorney told me that everything is fine. No, we have to inform the community as well in order to they have the better services and to real come to be a citizen.
Okay. And so let's say people are interested in becoming citizens and they go through that process, but they're confused as in if they're going to need an attorney or not. So John, when is it the best time for immigrants to seek an attorney for immigration advice, or like legal advice?
Sorry. So one of the scenarios that Arcadio pointed out is the moment that they hear someone has been arrested or has any kind of criminal history, that for them is a red flag.
Correct.
So that they do not continue to process that application, I imagine. And you would need further legal analysis or an evaluation on what is that crime that was committed. What is the disposition? How do you get those dispositions? Is maybe the way that they would handle putting it out to the potential applicant. An attorney is better suited to provide that analysis, that review. We can look at prior cases, case law, the statutes, everything that we would need to do to tell that individual whether or not they're eligible for citizenship. Are there things you need to do prior to filling out your application? Because everything you do with immigration has a tremendous impact. We're talking about families who are in a tight predicament now where all these rules are being changed from one week to the next, that we have to provide them with the best information as it is that day. So I think that's one area where attorneys can get involved when there's criminal history. But there's others, right? I mean, if someone has been out of the country for a certain amount of time, that can be grounds for not being eligible for citizenship. Not necessarily for you to continue, for you not to be able to continue being a resident, but for purposes of citizenship, there's just a lot of questions that can trigger eligibility issues.
Okay. And so I know a lot of people who are skeptical of, reaching out to an attorney because they've heard stories of bad cases where the attorney or the lawyer in general didn't win, or just like money issues and like all that. So how can people avoid scams, or how can people better pick like who they're asking to be represented by?
Well, one thing is that you've seen in time and time again is a lot of notario fraud. So notary publics who are designated with some kind of immigration service provider designation. You see a lot of that. But the notary is really just transcribing information. I am hearing what you're telling me and I'm putting it on a form, but there is no analysis, there's no evaluation on whether or not you should even be filling out that application, whether or not you're eligible, whether or not your criminal history bars you. Oh, and by the way, it would be referred to immigration court. So I think you find more fraud by way of a notary than you do with an attorney. An attorney has to abide by a certain professional ethic. And if that attorney does something that runs afoul of that, I could lose my license, right? So all those years and debt that I have put myself through gets wiped. I mean, that's a very difficult situation. Higher bar of what I'm looking at and the information that I'm able to provide. Whereas someone who's not held to that higher standard, can maybe easily look over or just get the money or whatever it is. But I think it is always important to at least get an opinion. Attorneys can provide at least an opinion. If someone is telling you you're eligible for citizenship and they're not an attorney, but also not someone who's been doing it for years and knows what they're doing, I think you should ask yourself the question, should I at least seek out an opinion from a reputable organization or an attorney?
Do people go to your organization, Arcadio, and ask for legal advice or like contact information of attorneys?
Well, we have to distinguish what can we do and what can attorney is able to do it. For instance, people come to our office, we only help them to fill an application. That is the service that we provide, because we cannot provide legal advice. We have to not break the law right there.
Right.
And we work very closely with different attorneys who help us, and they provide pro bono services for low-income families. So that is the avenue that we provide to the families we serve.
Okay, so now we've discussed a lot about like the resources that are available and the law behind just immigration and the rights that people have in general. But I want to dive deep into ICE raids because they're happening more and more across the nation, and we just saw the one in Mississippi that really shocked a lot of people. Yeah. So I want to go and talk about different scenarios. So John, if someone is released after being detained, what options do they have?
Detained by ICE?
Yes.
So ICE has a lot of authority with respect to someone's detention. They first have to determine whether this person is deportable, whether they've committed some kind of act as an immigrant or just as a person committing a crime that makes him or her deportable. Once they make that determination, then they have to figure out, well, am I going to let this person free? So do I put them under an order of release on their own recognizance? Do I put them on an order of where they have to report? Do I put an ankle bracelet on them? Do I determine some kind of bond amount? $2,500, $7,000, whatever it is. Highest I've seen is $73,500. Who can pay that, is a different story, but they have that initial authority. And then they'll issue what's called a notice to appear. So just at the very beginning, those are the options that are laid out. Let's say they're out now. What does that person do? I would highly recommend that that person get some kind of legal advice. Connect themselves to a nonprofit where in that nonprofit they have a removal defense arm in their organization where they're representing people in immigration court, because that's what they're confronting, is how do I navigate the immigration court system? Are there defenses that I can provide? There's just so much that they can do that they would have they would be better suited if they're connected to an organization or an attorney. So I would highly recommend that they do at least one of those things.
Okay. And so if someone is stopped by ICE in a public place, what can they do?
So you have to be well informed, because one of the things I talk about most is you can know what it is you can do, but it's the confrontation with that ICE agent that is the power dynamic. And a lot of immigrants, out of fear, defer their power away in those moments of confrontation. So it's not just about knowing how to act in this situation, but also being able to navigate your anxiety, your nerves. Here's this ICE agent, and if I have no status, what can I or can I not say? One, remaining silent is key, right? But if I'm in a public place, it depends on what I'm doing. Am I being stopped because there's some kind of reasonable suspicion that I'm committing some criminal act? If that's the case, it's not going to be ICE, right? It'll be a local police department. So I think that would be a nice way for people to figure out, is this ICE or is this local police? If it's ICE, they have no reason to just come up to someone because they look like an undocumented person. I don't even know what that means. There's no criminal act that's being committed. And so people have to begin to become broken records. Am I allowed to leave? Am I under arrest? Before I just give you my name, where I'm born, when I was born, how did I get into the country? Those are all questions related to, are you an undocumented person? But that in and of itself is not a crime that you've committed. So in a public place, you still have your rights to remain silent. That is key. So to how you reserve that right, and empower yourself with it in that power dynamic is what we have to also try and get people to get accustomed to.
And so in relation to your answer to that, what is something that the immigrant community can do if ICE comes knocking at their door?
So if they come at their door, they have different set of rights, where if that agent is coming in with an administrative warrant signed by ICE, or is it a judicial warrant signed by a judge? An administrative warrant does not allow them to force upon entry into that home. Okay. Only a judicial warrant would allow them the ability to do something like that. And so at the very front end, they don't have to open that door. There is nothing that ICE agent's administrative warrant prevents them from not opening that door. Let me see it. Show it to me. Put it through the window. Put it under the door. But we also have to keep in mind that we're in a mixed status household, different ages. We have to also teach kids not to open that door, because ICE agents will use that door opening as grounds for, I have now been invited in and I'm looking for fulano, right? So I think just from the very get is knowing, don't open that door. If they come in, remain silent. And if they detain you, don't sign anything.
Okay. And so we just unpacked a lot of information about what people can do in certain situations. So Arcadio, how can attorneys better help your organization to help the communities in the Chicagoland area?
I would like to add a little bit what John was mentioning. If someone is detained on the public arena, and I really recommend to everybody, never carry any fraudulent document. Because of course you have your rights to remain silent, you have the 14th Amendment to due process, but also if in case that you, for any reason that you are detained and then you've been searched, please don't carry any fraudulent document, because that puts you on worse risk of deportation. See, if someone is here illegally, well, undocumented, because I understand nobody is illegal in this world, undocumented, here in the United States, they might have options to stay here, to remain here in the United States. But if they have a fraudulent document, for instance, a birth certificate that belongs to another person, that will put this undocumented person in worse situation. I really recommend that. Regard to your question, how can we work together? Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, Cicero Area Project and not only Cicero Area Project, many other organizations work very closely with pro bono attorney. And I would like to invite you, John, that to do a pro bono services at Cicero Area Project. when we offered the workshops, because we had the same common goal.
Yeah.
And the common goal is to help our community, to inform our community, to see if they can qualify for better quality life here in the United States.
Thank you for that. And as we wrap up on the show, I just want to ask one quick, brief question to John about how people can prepare for the worst case scenario, like just a list of things they can do just before we end the show.
I would be honored to help out in any way possible. I'm not a stranger to nonprofits. I dedicate a lot of my time to LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens. I also do a lot of work with Familia Latina Unida, church based in Pilsen. And I would also recommend that your organization come and join us on the Right to Family campaign, where we know that under President Obama, he did DACA, but he also did DAPA, right?
Yes,
Deferred
correct,
Action for
correct.
Parental
Yeah.
Accountability. Let's get that back up front and center, because we're not just opening the door to young children and then somehow close the door on their parents.
Correct.
It makes no sense.
I agree with you. The whole family, the serve.
Yes.
Family is the
United
center point.
States. Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to put on the screen the list of things that you can do if you are detained or to prepare for the worst case scenario. I thank you all for watching, and I thank you, Arcadio and John, for joining us today and speaking about your experiences, letting the people know what they can do and not do in certain situations. So I thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.